Hello friends, so today I'm going to review the Lumix G9. You might be wondering why I'm reviewing a camera which was released almost 2.5 years ago. First reason, the camera is released in India and it's available for sale, and it's an affordable camera under $1,000, feature packed. Second, I feel the camera specifications and the way the camera is still relevant in 2020. I shot a couple of videos of marketplace in Chennai during Corona times. Rains, experimented with slow motion, stop motion animation, and in general shot pictures around my home with this camera. I thank Panasonic Lumix India for providing me with this camera and lenses for my review. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I request you to click the Hornbill logo on the bottom right of this video or the red color subscribe button. I would be really thankful if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. There were times when I thought the Micro Four Thirds cameras would not yield good results because of the smaller sensor size. Now for the past 8 months I have been shooting with the Lumix GH5s apart from the new Lumix G9. I would like to start the review with this thought in mind. No camera can draw parity with the human eye's performance. A good photographer understands this and the limitations of the camera and creates the best imagery with it. Once you have this in mind, a couple of stop shot on dynamic range or low light performance will not affect the way you create your imagery. I shoot my weddings on the Lumix S1 and a large part of my personal photography and YouTube videos with the Lumix GH5s. I feel MFT cameras are great for wedding films. I have not shot it, but I have plans to shoot wedding films with MFT cameras. With this experience, I was excited to have a test drive with the Lumix G9. The first thing you'll notice once you have got the camera in your hand is that it's very similar to the Lumix GH5 in terms of size, and controls look more like what is on the Lumix S1. This is the first Micro Four Thirds camera from Lumix which has got a top LCD panel which is helpful for photographers to quickly review settings of the camera. The buttons and the dials feel more comfortable to use even as compared to the GH5 and GH5s. The camera feels well built and it inspires confidence the moment you have the G9 in your hands. You have many buttons and dials, and the camera allows you to customize anything to any button or any control. Notwithstanding that, you have a custom menu where you can have shortcuts to the most used functions. Everybody has a list of functions which are most used in a camera, and Lumix gives options to have these functions readily on a menu. With a well organized menu and a touch screen to choose whatever function you want, this camera is a breeze to use. By the way, you can also access the menus with the control wheel, joystick, and control dials. There are many ways to access the functions with this camera. The camera is light at about 658 grams, including the battery, and I feel it's a very comfortable camera to have in hands. I use a wrist strap from Peak Design with this camera, and I cannot expect something more comfortable than this. The materials used on this camera feel great, and you'd love to pick up this camera every time. I think it is a very comfortable camera to shoot both pictures and video handheld. It's the kind of camera which can easily become a close friend of you in a short span of time. Panasonic Lumix says G9 is a weather sealed camera and guarantees performance down to minus 10 degrees centigrade. Well, living in Chennai, I could not test its performance at minus 10 degrees centigrade. But I did shoot in moderate rains for a few minutes and the camera worked without any issues. Of course, with appropriate lenses. As a photographer, I do not buy cameras which are not weather sealed. The best of the shots you get may not be always in the best of the weather conditions. I love the night mode where you can choose either of the LCD or EVF or both to display in red so that your night vision is not affected because of the LCD brightness. People who shoot at night will understand the value of such a feature. The electronic viewfinder with 3.68 million dots and a refresh rate up to 120 fps is a joy to use. The 0.83x magnification is great. You really feel good with such a good magnification. And in case you are the kind of person who is wearing spectacles, you can reduce the magnification down to 0.77x so that you get a good eye relief. And notwithstanding that, they also give a diopter adjustment from -4 to +3. So even if you're a person wearing spectacles and you don't like to wear spectacles while shooting, this diopter adjustment comes handy. The Lumix G9 is a beast for still photography. With electronic shutter, the camera can fire up to 20 frames per second with continuous autofocus and up to 60 frames per second when the autofocus is locked. For situations where 20 megapixels is not sufficient for you, the G9 can use sensor shift to create 80 megapixel raw image preserve function wherein the camera already has started shooting even before you press the shutter button. So the camera is made in such a way. You have to use the camera with pre to feel the use of this feature. It also has focus stacking features and post focus that could appeal to photographers who are shooting products. While Panasonic introduced this camera as a still photography centric camera with video capability, later on with the firmware update 2.0, it has become a fantastic video camera with 10-bit 422 and decent data rate on 1080p and 4K in lower frame rates. The camera does 180 frames per second in 1080p and up to 60p in 4K, and all this from a 2.5-year-old camera. Now you can also update the camera for vlog with the paid firmware update, and you also get goodies like video scopes added to this update. So this makes it almost equal to a GH5, short of a couple of features like having intra, cinema 4K and anamorphic D-squeeze. Being a 20 megapixel resolution sensor, the camera offers 2x and 4x crops while recording video and a handy live view crop mode. For me, it is the dolly and slider while shooting my YouTube videos at 1080p. The live view crop has become my favorite feature in all Lumix Micro Four Thirds cameras. Such a useful feature in low budget video production, and my review would be incomplete if I don't mention the dual IS2. For videographers, the camera offers a mic port, headphone port for monitoring sound, and a full-size HDMI output for those who like to use an external recorder or an external display. The camera offers variable frame rate. I think this is a special feature with all Panasonic cameras. This means at 1080p you can select anywhere from 1 frames per second to 1080 frames per second. The in-camera time-lapse and stop motion allows you to create videos in camera after shooting the pictures with time-lapse or stop motion animation turned on. And you can make videos in either of 1080 or 4K in different FPS, which the camera allows to choose after shooting the pictures. When it comes to autofocus, the camera uses Panasonic's depth from defocus system, which is an improved contrast based focusing system. The system gets better and better with firmwares as they use machine learning. I think G9 is the fastest Lumix camera I have used. While the autofocus performance with DFD is not comparable to cameras using in-camera face detection pixels, I would say when it comes to real life situations, the autofocus is sure usable for both video and still photography. I'm sure Panasonic Lumix is working on making DFD better every day. While you lose a bit on autofocus performance, you gain that much on image quality. Coming to the final thoughts, what you get out of the camera is finally the image, and the image quality matters whether it's a still photograph or a motion picture. The Lumix G9 is usable in most situations, but if you're a photographer or a filmmaker who regularly works in low lit conditions, then you may have to consider one of the S series cameras, which is brilliant in low light. To be fair, I loved the camera for its size, great ergonomics, the brilliant color science, and gimbal like image stabilization. I think this camera is suitable for content creators who want to shoot both still photographs and videos. Here I have turned on the lock on image stabilization, e-stabilization, and the autofocus is on tracking. Let's see how the camera performs in autofocus for vlogging as well as the stabilization. I'm just holding the camera in my hands now. The camera is feature packed and appeals to photographers and filmmakers on the move who want to carry a smaller camera bag. I think it is one of the best feature rich cameras that you can buy under $1,000. As photographers and filmmakers, you have great selection of lenses from 8mm up to 400mm from various brands at various prices. I think you get great deals on MFT lenses in used market as well. Every time I pick this camera, I love to shoot. Let me go out and shoot now. Bye guys.